Hey guys, today we're looking at the KeebBrawler-04, an innovative addition to the Mavercade Keeb line. There are two versions of this controller, a base model with a 3D printed skeleton and then a more premium all-metal version with a black CNC'd aluminum body. They are basically identical aside from the enclosure materials, but we can take a look at each one in this video. First impressions right out of the box are very good. Contributing greatly to the arcade stick innovations coming from north of the border, Mavercade is a Canadian business and pride themselves on leading the charge in new and ergonomic layouts. You can see here that this KeebBrawler-04 has some intriguing button angles, as well as a few more buttons beyond what we usually expect on these devices. Before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's take a quick look at the dimensions, since at a glance it has a much larger footprint than a Flatbox or JFA Micro. And because this one in hand is the base 04 model, it has the 3D printed skeleton for a lighter weight than its all-metal counterpart. However, what this one lacks in relative weight, it makes up for in personality, because it can accept a user's artwork. We can peel back that protective film to reveal a Last Ronin vibe just oozing with personality. I worked with my buddy Creeps and Babes to get their take on that darker Ninja Turtle aesthetic. We've got ourselves a rainy cityscape with a single candle burning in the foreground, and then the turtle spirits, even in death, standing behind their remaining brother. The Last Ronin doesn't pull any punches, and I think the art does well to capture that. I also think these black aux buttons and the black PL12 nylon keycaps go well with our darker color palette. Now, these devices are hot swappable, so you have plenty of options to dial in your preferred switch type, but when ordering, you can choose between 3 different KL-V1 switches. This is what the reds sound like here. Now, looking further at this layout, you can see there is a slightly wider area between the innermost directional and action buttons. This is to keep hands from crowding, a bit like how a split keyboard works. There are also some additional buttons. Left of the movement is your L3. Then the L1 and L2 are angled on the bottom around where your thumbs rest. You can use the right hand for an additional jump function, or to duplicate any other button if you'd like to remap. This is a very cool layout and seems in line with a lot of my own sensibilities regarding button placements. I picked up a premium shell upgrade kit, and I'm going to quickly change from the art model. The premium 04S is sold as a full controller or an upgrade unit for the regular 04 people who want it later down the line. If you started with the art enclosure but now want to upgrade to some heavier metal with a brushed aluminum texture, this would be how you would do it. Just remove the top 8 screws with an Allen wrench and pull the unit apart. Inside of the standard 04, you can see the PCB attached to the 3D printed skeleton with a handful of screws. You'll need a screwdriver for the inside screws. Remove those, then reattach the PCB to the new enclosure, just working the previous steps in reverse. And looking at the innards, I'm reminded that the whole thing runs on current GP2040CE firmware. This means you can select from 5 input modes and multiple SOCD cleaning modes. A lot can be done through button shortcuts, but you can also explore the web configurator for more advanced changes. The outer screws for the premium all-button shell are not of the Allen wrench variety, and they come in from the bottom rather than the top. Really, that's about the only difference, but it's enough to change the overall vibe of the controller. Metal conveys a more premium quality and has a substantial weight difference. Let's throw it back on the scale real quick to confirm the heft. The KeebBrawler-04 is definitely bigger than other Mavercade all-button offerings. Really, the footprint of the device is probably closer to an actual hitbox than to the usual flatbox style portions of the all-button world. As far as gameplay was concerned, there were no issues and everything was very responsive. The caps felt nice, the switches felt familiar, and the extra buttons were awesome in certain games which could make use of them. SF6 defaulted to some really nice drive function spots. I think the wider hand spacing is noticeable at first from someone like me who messes around with a lot of smaller, more typical layouts, but a user acclimates quickly. I'm sure if this was the only controller I had, I wouldn't have even noticed it. That said, I found it comfortable and can definitely see the ergonomic rationale behind the design. And with the angled button, a user can feasibly keep their wrists straighter as well. So that means that the KeebBrawler-04 may deserve extra consideration if you're a bigger person or prioritize ergonomics in your all-button controllers. If you're interested in getting one for yourself, Mavercade has a web store. All of their items are made to order and can take up to 14 to 30 days processing time depending on the queue. They have a variety of items available and are always developing something new behind the scenes. And as I mentioned, it is much larger than many other all-button models, It fills that space between the extremely small portable controllers and the larger, full-sized, more traditional options. To offer some final thoughts, I think the controller is really cool. It has a split layout, which puts a user's hands farther apart than a typical build would. This can be more ergonomic for some, and it's also a welcome difference for those bigger players who want straighter wrists and don't want their arms as tight across their bodies. Something else of note is that slides are comparably easier than some other all-button devices. The buttons don't stick up much beyond the top of the case, so you can really run your hand across smoother than some competitors' offerings. The S-Line has the cold metal feel, which takes a game or two to warm up through the heat of your own hands. Your mileage may vary, but I know some people really appreciate that cool touch. Plus, we all know that an all-metal controller prevents splinters.
I made a funny!
The whole thing is a nice package and gets the nod from me. I did end up swapping back to the art version at the end. I loved the turtles as a kid, and because you're watching this channel, you're probably a dude and you're probably in your mid-30s, so I'm willing to bet that you did too. Feel free to leave your favorite turtle in the comments below, but I won't hear anything other than Donatello objectively being the best one. Thanks to Mavercade for the controller, thanks to Creeps for the artwork, and thanks to you for watching and subscribing. I appreciate it. Support your locals, and I'll see you next time.